Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for another eMarketer Tech Talk where we host amazing guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and MarTech. I'm Kelsey Voss, Principal Analyst at eMarketer covering B2B marketing. It's great to have you with us today. B2B marketing is evolving so quickly and data partnerships are more important than ever. In today's conversation, we'll explore how strategic data partnerships create value by enhancing data access, improving measurement capabilities, and tackling key challenges like privacy and signal loss. Now, joining us from eMarketer's New York studio, let's meet my guests. Benji Schechner, Business Development Manager, Measurement and Clean Room at LinkedIn. Hello, Benji.
How you doing, Kelsey? Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. And we also have Frederick Stanichev, Vice President of Sales at LiveRamp. Hello, Frederick.
Hi, Kelsey. Great to be here.
Great to have you too. And to our audience, we'd love to hear from you today. Just drop your questions into the chat window on the right, and we'll answer as many as we can during the live Q&A later in the show. We have a great panel discussion planned for you today, but first, Frederick, I'm going to hand it over to you to set the scene.
No, thank you very much, Kelsey. I thought we would actually kind of go and start the conversation today by kind of talking about the different kind of external forces we are seeing in the kind of marketing landscape and kind of how that has actually changed the picture and the practice of B2B advertisers. And so when we look at the external forces or changes, trends that we have actually observed over kind of the last few years, there are kind of three main themes that are actually kind of coming up. One is deprecation and deprecation of cookies. So when we think about kind of the big tech movement over the last 5 years, we've seen like whether it's Safari or whether it's Chrome, the ability to collect data for a B2B marketer is now becoming increasingly limited. This is due actually to the absence of third-party cookies or the introduction of opt-in requirements when it comes to data collection. And so this resulting deprecation of cookies leads to a significant loss of signals, right? As B2B marketers can no longer directly capture all the advertising events and understand kind of the exact journey of the customers. So consequently, the understanding of the customer journey is diminished. This data deficit hampers the ability to effectively analyze audience behavior and implement optimization tactics to maximize the return on investment. So that's the first phenomenon that we see, and we see that as kind of continuing in 2025, 2026. The second big kind of trend, I would say, is privacy regulation. Now, we've seen 2018, so 6 years ago, GDPR was kind of in effect in Europe. The United States kind of quickly followed in California with the CPRA. And now we have 20 states that have actually kind of legislated, 14 of them over the last 2 years, and we actually foresee another 10 legislating in the upcoming years. So that's actually kind of putting enterprises under a lot of pressure when it comes to having the right process to have a robust data collection and protection mechanism to ensure compliance and use data responsibly based on the consent that they actually kind of got from the customers. So in response to this, there has been a global shift towards investing in privacy enhancing technologies, safeguard user information and minimize risk. And so that has actually kind of put first-party data in the center of any kind of marketer strategy, right? So anything that has actually kind of been given to me as a marketer, I need to actually kind of find the right tools to actually kind of enable an effective utilization. And then you have a third phenomenon, decentralization. So in response to those privacy regulations, we've seen media companies and big tech firms eliminating certain workflows that were involving sharing event level data back to advertisers, even if that was pseudonymous. So instead, they have now kind of started offering analytics environments accessible to brands for querying and analyzing overall performance. So that has added some complexity on the marketer, the B2B marketer, Well, because we see now a multiplication of tools that they need to get into to actually kind of go and then operate them to obtain an output. And so that kind of practice of needing to actually manage different tools is just kind of increasing the challenge in terms of having the right resources, having the right skills internally to go and do so. So now moving on to kind of what we see as kind of being the big challenges for B2B marketers as kind of this world has actually kind of increased in overall sophistication. One, B2B and B2C marketers, while they're trying to do the same, they have a really different world. Meaning that when you are a B2B marketer, the key here is actually to sell to another enterprise. What that means is that you're actually kind of not selling only to one individual, you are selling to a group of stakeholders that are making a decision. And this decision might take time. So that's actually complexifying a lot more measurement. That's complicating also the targeting, the messaging back to this audience. And so what we see here is that we need to actually kind of B2B marketers needs to actually have a tool in order to manage that complexity and that overall kind of funnel due to the duration of the campaigns. The second one is really about the signal data capture. Now that we actually kind of in that world where first-party data is kind of driving most of the strategy, you need to actually kind of go and find mechanism to go and obtain further insight through signal captures from your partners, whether they're actually kind of media companies or whether they're actually data providers. And so that would actually kind of go and result in getting kind of more insights about your audience, right? So when you go and target kind of an audience on a specific media companies, even if it's an audience-driven segment, you might not know exactly kind of the level of seniority of that audience. You might not know exactly kind of what type of company they're working for or what are actually kind of the vertical focus. So in this case here, you need to rely on third parties or your partners to actually kind of go and enrich kind of the data that you have available to and at your disposal. And then finally, I would say, kind of going back to the first point around measurement, that complexity of measurement is really more sophisticated on the B2B side, just based on all the different metrics that you'll take into account. So when I think about measurement, for a B2B marketer, I think of all the data sources, all the conversion events that I might want to actually kind of go and evaluate, wherever it's lead qualification, wherever it's actually the deal size, wherever it's the customer lifetime value, or even kind of measure kind of my ad effectiveness against the pipeline that I actually kind of do have in my CRM. So there's really kind of different angles and different dimensions that B2B marketers can go and actually kind of measure the ad campaigns against. So given that world, now we see kind of numerous tools kind of being provided to B2B marketers in order to face those challenges. And so one of the key kind of emerging and maturing kind of technologies are data clean rooms. And so when you think about data clean rooms, they were kind of initially serving kind of B2C marketers, but now we have seen actually the evolution of this going towards B2B marketers and making tons of relevance for a B2B marketer. So what's a data clean room? A data clean room is a secure and controlled environment where multiple parties can bring together the data sets, often including privacy sensitive or proprietary information. So without directly sharing the underlying data with one another. So inside the clean room, data typically undergoes privacy enhancing measures such as encryption, anonymization, or differential privacy, and is combined or analyzed in a way to ensure that no participants, so whether the B2B marketer or the media company, can actually identify individual users or access raw personal level records from the other participants. And so this is meant to actually kind of go and create outputs or insights, whether it's actually campaign attribution, wherever it's overlap, whether it's kind of overall insight or enrichment, while maintaining kind of a privacy regulations. So when we think about the initial state of clean room, so I think like here a few years ago, few years ago, we were really kind of about connecting kind of the two data sets, as kind of we explained here, and then kind of come up with initial analytics. Now we have seen this world truly kind of evolving, especially for B2B marketers. One is actually kind of the ability of connecting multiple data sets. So multiple first-party data sets from the B2B marketer. So wherever it's my pipeline, wherever those are my conversion and leads, wherever those are kind of customer profile information, this is now kind of enabling marketers to have a much more in-depth analytics around the effectiveness of a campaign. Two is kind of removing the need from kind of technical human resources like data science or data engineering, trying to simplify the process by actually kind of automating workflows and making sure we remove the needs from that kind of enhanced technological enhanced kind of analytics. Then the third thing, which is quite important, is that initially, the on data collaboration or data clean rooms could kind of really be leveraged within kind of your own realm or within kind of the partners that were actually kind of using the same technology that you were. Those days are over. Right now, we have seen kind of the ecosystem kind of thriving towards kind of an agnostic technology where any partner can actually kind of go and partner with the partners, regardless of the technology stack that they're actually using, and minimizing data movement. And finally, you've got the identity resolution, right? That is actually kind of now part of that collaboration, just to make sure that we maximize all kind of the matching between the two data sets. So coming to this kind of, and thinking about how this is actually being used, I think they actually kind of mainly kind of three main categories of use cases. One is insights, two is actually segmentation and activation, and three is then kind of measurement that we have been talking through kind of during this webinar. So insights really kind of is meant to actually provide further intelligence around the marketer audiences. So adding attributes that are collected by the media owner around the audience that was targeting and inform kind of specific points, and Benji will go into this in a second. And then also kind of making sure that we are a feedback loop in terms of what's working, what's not working for a specific audience. Is a message, is a creative kind of responding, and therefore you're actually kind of seeing outperformance. Then two, you've got activation, segmentation and activation, where here it's about building joint segments with your media partners with a richer set of attributes, just to make sure that you are actually the most relevant in the messaging that you deliver to the personas. Think about delivering an advertisement on a platform such as LinkedIn, the messaging towards a CMO or the messaging towards a CIO being kind of literally really different, and you might not have kind of all that insights, you as a B2B marketer initially. And then you have measurement. So B2B sales cycles are often long and extended. And so here, the ability of actually kind of extending the look back window to have a further understanding around the overall influence of an ad campaign across the sales cycle is key, right? For the B2B marketer, but also for the media partner, just to go and understand what are the optimization opportunities that can be kind of generated. So that's kind of the number one measurement. The number two would be about really kind of identifying suppression opportunities, making sure you don't deliver ads to somebody that was either oversaturated with ads, or kind of making sure that you don't oversaturate also a company, right? Because now, as we were kind of talking about, we're not only selling to only one person, but really to a team and a group of people. So we want to make sure we have this understanding. So all those use cases are now kind of what we see our partners doing. And so I've got Benji here, and he's going to walk us through kind of how LinkedIn is offering to the partners and customers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Frederick. So Advanced Insights is LinkedIn's direct-to-advertiser clean room offering. And it really came from, as Frederick mentioned, really this advertiser desire to get more granular insights in a privacy-safe and privacy-first manner, as LinkedIn really wants to protect our member data. And really, the reason that LinkedIn is able to do this is because we have that breadth, right? We have 1 billion plus members. We have 69 million companies, right? So we have that user data, we have the company data, we have all this job information, and our clean room really, as Frederick mentioned, does contain those different use cases. You have the ability to bring in, an advertiser could bring in their data to get those premium insights against LinkedIn's different targeting attributes. You have the ability to activate the data from the clean room on LinkedIn, and then as well, that enhanced measurement, as we'll talk about a little bit more. And Frederick, if you go one more slide, in terms of the data that LinkedIn really brings to the table, you can see it on the slide. I always like highlighting, we have different information such as that firmographic data, right? Such as company size, company location, company industry, as well as, of course, all that member data, right? Job title, job industry as well. And then we also have the ability to really bring in any activities that happen on LinkedIn, right? So we have ad campaign information such as who was really targeted, who was viewed the ad, who clicked the ad, who shared the ad. And this is really just the beginning, as we'll talk about really during this panel. We just, for example, brought in an additional data set for LinkedIn Live ads, as that was an additional use case that we heard from our advertisers. And so we want to continue to expand the use cases based on what advertisers are asking for, but all in a privacy-first manner. And so just to bring this home and really ground it in a specific example, I wanted to talk about Atlassian. Perfect. Thank you, Frederick. So Atlassian really is a great example and very similar to a lot of the advertisers, B2B advertisers I work with, where they advertise on LinkedIn, but the challenge was they were not able to share their pipeline data or revenue data with LinkedIn because of privacy reasons on their side. And so really what they were able to do with the Clean Room Advanced Insights was they were able to bring in their revenue data and pipeline data. LinkedIn was able to bring in our exposure data from the different campaigns. And what you really saw was that great impact, a 3.6 return on ad spend. Really, since they were able to measure this data for the first time, and as well, as Frederick mentioned, they were able to even get more campaign optimizations, right? What was the top performing demographic? What was the top performing creative to further optimize those campaigns and continue growing that return on ad spend with LinkedIn? And I know we have some questions, Kelsey, so we'll pass it to you to start talking about our panel, but happy to go into any greater detail on any of these aspects.
Thank you so much, Benji and Frederick. Data collaboration and clean room technology can clearly help B2B advertisers gain insights and remain compliant and boost ROI. So now, yes, I'd love to get into our panel discussion. My first question is for Benji. LinkedIn has really been the leader in B2B clean rooms and B2B data collaboration. You just shared the Atlassian success story. How did you manage to scale so quickly and drive such great results?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question, Kelsey. So really it comes from the fact that it's a win-win on both sides, right? The advertiser wants that measurement type of report. And while LinkedIn really wants to be privacy first and protect the data of our members. And so really through the solution, we're able to really drive those results and tie it to business value. And I actually, before this webinar today, got an email from an advertiser who is sending the insights they're getting from the clean room really to their CMO, and it's getting circulated, right? So they're able to take these results to the CMO, really proving the impact of LinkedIn, and that accelerates everything, that impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And LinkedIn offers a variety of reporting tools, right, for advertisers, but clean rooms really stand out as ideal for certain companies. Who is your ideal client for your clean room, and how do they decide to use it versus other reporting tools?
Totally. Good question as well. So LinkedIn does have that variety of different measurement tools, such as our conversion API, a revenue attribution report. And really, if an advertiser is able to leverage those tools, that is the recommendation, right? The thing I always say with advertisers is if you can get around to town on a Honda, you don't need the Porsche, right? And the clean room really is the Porsche. So the main advertisers we work with really are those privacy sensitive advertisers who have no other way to really get these types of insights or share their revenue data or pipeline data with LinkedIn. And that's really who we go after and who we work with as they see the best results.
Yeah, absolutely. Frederick, many use cases for clean rooms focus on media, and often the advertisers will work very closely with their agency partners
Mhm.
on their media strategy. What role have you seen agencies play in clean rooms and data collaboration?
Yeah, so great question. Thank you, Kelsey. I think kind of agencies are playing kind of two critical roles in our ecosystem. One is when a brand is actually kind of licensing data clean room technology to enable data collaboration with multiple partners, they still do need some resources in terms of helping them with onboarding data, making the right connections, and then kind of developing kind of the right queries to actually surface the insights that Benji was talking about. And so we see actually agencies having developed at a large scale resources in terms of data science that is actually kind of helping our clients. And also kind of what we see kind of them kind of linking this is one, you can actually get the insights from the clean room, but then two is actually then how do you influence media optimization, right? How would you actually kind of influence then the tactical targeting within kind of the end activation point? And so at this place, like the agency is playing this critical role around kind of leveraging that targeting. And secondly, like we've seen some of the major holdcos today kind of leveraging data clean rooms and coming to the market with a turnkey offering where they actually are plugging kind of the first party data that they have acquired and then kind of establishing a network of media partners that they can actually kind of go and provide insights to the marketers straight away. So it's also kind of providing marketers kind of a first step in the data collaboration world without kind of a heavy lifting part. So really kind of a critical role, and we tend to partner highly with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Very critical. Let's talk a little bit about measurement. Benji, clean rooms are opening new ways for advertisers to collaborate and measure success. What are some of the key metrics they can see now that weren't accessible before? For instance, return on ad spend by audiences or any influences in the sales cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, as I mentioned, we work with these advertisers that are, privacy sensitive or for their own privacy policies cannot bring in their data, right? So they actually tell us, one of them really large cloud provider recently told us that using these reports was like seeing for the first time with glasses, right? They're able to actually see and measure their impact, which
Yeah.
is really helpful. And so, specific to your question about what metrics are available within the clean room, they are, as Frederick mentioned, really taking some of the traditional B2C metrics and really making them more B2B, right? We're not focusing on the vanity metrics such as click-through rate, but we're really measuring, deal velocity, deal size, pipeline impact, return on ad spend, optimizations, as well as, time to convert.
Yeah.
We recently just worked with a large financial services client who, wanted to know what was the optimal look back window, right? In
Mhm.
B2B,
Yeah.
it's not, even, I know you mentioned 12 months, it's not even 12 months. Sometimes it's actually, 18 months.
Okay.
And the financial services advertiser didn't know or wanted some input on what that would be for their own
Mhm.
attribution model. So they're able to bring in their conversion data to our clean room, run our time to convert
Yeah.
query and get that input. So they knew it was, not 18 months, but it was actually 14 was their sweet spot. And they're able to take that for their, models on their side.
Super cool.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Benji. It's interesting. One of my top trends in B2B marketing is all centered around data. So this is definitely top of mind. And Frederick, there has been so much buzz and adoption of clean rooms and collaboration in the last couple of years, but there's still some challenges. From your
Mhm.
experience, what are some of the biggest hurdles companies are facing?
I would actually kind of think about like two main hurdles that we have actually kind of observed kind of over the last kind of few years, and hopefully we're actually kind of helping and removing them. But like one is, I would say, legal. Legal is actually kind of being decelerating the rate of adoption, just because when you think about two companies kind of collaborating with each other, they would actually kind of need to have paperwork signed between each other for a data processing agreement. And this takes time. And then also, sometimes actually they also ask the technology providers to go and through kind of a security review and sign kind of the same type of agreements. And so this is kind of delaying the overall adoption. That being said, I think the industry is now kind of working towards standardization of terms and standardization of I would say literacy of the legal teams, because also we need to actually kind of go and educate them around the guarantees that such technologies offer. And so that is kind of to be resolved, I hope, in 2025 and 2026. The second thing I would say is also about kind of clear ownership, right, of the clean room. And that also kind of means to say, one, you need to have one person within the organization that knows what the outcome needs to be. And data clean rooms are not a finality on their end. Like they're just a way to actually kind of go and get intelligence. And so you need to have kind of a person that is there to actually kind of lead that effort internally within the clients, but also externally with the partners, such as the agency that you were actually asking before. So that kind of orchestration is key to actually kind of go and drive adoption as fast as we can.
I think that's a really good point of having that point person. Makes a lot of sense. Benji, I'm curious, for companies just starting out to explore clean rooms, what's your top advice to help them, get up and running successfully?
Yeah, I think it ties actually to Frederick's answer about, having that core person. I think it's also about having a core use case, right? I have these conversations with B2B advertisers and we get all excited about all the things they can do, in the
Yeah.
clean room. But it's really helpful to focus on that initial use case, get that value, and that helps the business side drive all the different legal
Yeah.
hurdles and the technical hurdles, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So that's really my advice is focus on that first initial use case to get off the ground.
That makes a lot of sense. Frederick, do you have any additional advice that you would give?
I mean, yeah, it's around the same lines that Benji just kind of mentioned here. I would actually kind of just add that I think kind of clearly understanding where the impact is going to be. So if you're a B2B marketer, go and focus on the one, two, three media partners that do matter in terms of media investment, and do not also kind of complexify, I should say, kind of the use cases. I think kind of starting with simple queries or simple analytics that would actually kind of drive that transparency in terms of where you are seeing performance already kind of immensely kind of valuable for marketers. And so just getting starting there and then kind of graduating over time. So not kind of boiling the ocean on the use cases.
Right. You don't want to overdo it before you really get up
Yeah.
and running, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. E-marketer, we're all about looking ahead in the future and what the trends will be. And so what excites you both the most about future opportunities that clean rooms and data collaboration will provide? And Benji, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I would say the first thing that I'm really excited about with these clean rooms is the ability to measure for advertisers who haven't been able to measure anything, right? Or, we're really able to prove that return on investment, return on ad spend, and that's really exciting. The second piece really is the ability to take a traditionally B2C tool and make it more B2B, right? So we're working on also how can we incorporate, for example, buyer groups right into the clean room. As we talked about, it's not just a person you're going after, but really that buying committee and how do we kind of use that model within the clean room. So I'm excited to make it B2Bify, if you want to use that word. And that's really exciting.
That's great. That's great. And Frederick, what about you?
I mean, I think kind of where the excitement is really kind of on the use cases that can actually be executed. And so when you think about the tech clean rooms now, I think the perception is going to be, and I hope in 3 years that this will be actually the plumbing that is actually kind of going and enabling kind of B2B marketers and B2C marketers to kind of go and perform measurement and optimization for the media. And so what I mean by that is that one, this will be kind of easy to plug in with all the media partners kind of straight away. So number one, and then kind of execute complicated use cases where you can actually go and connect several media publishers within the same environment just to be able to kind of do, say, deduplicated reach across kind of all those different media environments. So that would be actually my number one type of excitement in terms of a maturity curve of the use cases kind of being elevated. Um, and then the second thing I would say is we see also new partners kind of coming in and joining kind of data clean rooms. Like we see data providers now kind of establishing data clean rooms to provide more data to the marketers. Sometimes I'm just kind of missing some of it. And so that availability of data, that fluidity of data within the ecosystem through clean rooms is where I get really excited about.
That's great. Thank you so much, excuse me, for that great conversation. I think that you have helped demystify and maybe build some trust in this in clean room technology and data collaboration. So I thank you very much for being here today and sharing your expert insights. And so we've got some questions. So let's get straight to the Q&A. And let's see here for Benji. It was great to hear about the success that Atlassian had seen. Are there other examples or success stories you can share from different verticals?
Yeah, absolutely. The story that really is top of mind, we worked with a professional services company. And what they wanted to look at, or what was important to their metric, was not just pipeline created, but deal velocity and deal size. And so what we were able to do was we were able to look over the last 18 months, and they were able to define what they considered an influence deal at the account level, right? So they were able to say, I believe it was like 60 impressions at the account over that 18-month period to be considered influenced.
Mhm.
And what they were able to really do was look at the deals that were influenced versus not. And so they saw a 20% acceleration in deals that were influenced via LinkedIn, as
Okay.
well as a 50% lift in deal size, right? And so these are exciting metrics for the B2B advertiser to bring back to their CMO and really show, yes, there is a true impact of my campaign. So that's kind of exciting. I talked about, FinServe,
Mm.
happy to talk about others if
Yeah.
if needed.
Showing that impact is just, it's can be so difficult, but so important to be able to do that. That's wonderful. Uh, Question for Frederick. Is AI being leveraged in clean rooms today? And if so, can you share a little bit more on how?
Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't say yes to this. So yes, it is. And so when no, we talked for kind of representation about making Cleanroom more accessible to what I would call business user. So a media planner or media buyer that doesn't necessarily kind of have the technical skills to actually kind of go and write those analytics templates. And so now we actually kind of are leveraging AI in order to make it kind of much more easy for or easier for a marketer to go and write um, queries with natural language and that then becomes translated into kind of technical language that can be leveraged for the analytics.
That's great. And this goes back to one of our panel discussion questions that we had, which is for Frederick. Do the advertiser and media partner build the audience segments together?
Mhm.
And what do you recommend?
What do I recommend in terms of?
I guess the question might be what they recommend to build it together or building the segment separately.
Yeah, I think
Maybe that makes
basically kind
sense.
of the interest here between the advertiser and the media companies actually to go and share joint attributes within the data clean room to then kind of derive insights so that then a joint segment can actually be built and activated upon within kind of on and operated or sometimes actually kind of even on offsite audience extension practices.
Yeah, that's great. And just for our audience, if I'm somehow not relaying the question properly, please let know that we can always answer questions afterwards. And another question for you, Frederick. Can the data clean room help identify buying groups or intent signals to inform audience segmentations? And can you share an example of that?
Sure, yeah. It will kind of enable to actually kind of go and identify intent, right? And so, we talked earlier around all the different metrics that could actually kind of be captured through the media company that the B2B marketer doesn't necessarily kind of have access to. So if you think about, content being shared or attention metrics, like content that has actually been read, those kind of intent signals can then actually be shared by the media company with a B2B marketer and can be used then for segmentation that can be activated upon. So that's truly kind of the goal of the clean room here, is to actually kind of facilitate that exchange of data or data flow, I would say, between the two parties to actually kind of go and enable better segmentation and therefore activation.
And if
Excellent.
helpful, I can give a specific example
Oh, yes.
on that. So we just worked with another large cloud provider who had a brand campaign, and they brought in, all the users that really downloaded a white paper, right? So upper funnel for sure. And what we were able to do was, again, overlay their list of who converted, right, download that white paper against the LinkedIn facets or LinkedIn targeting attributes to really understand what are the relevant job titles, right?
Okay.
And there were some interesting job titles that they hadn't originally considered in their types of campaigns. And now we're able to really add those to expand, for the next brand campaign, who they should be targeting. Right. So just trying to tie all that circle together of conversion data overlaying with, B2B data to really, expand the campaign for the brand.
So that actually opened really to kind of open the targeting.
Totally.
Net new audiences that you didn't know about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, super interesting.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how, advertisers are using their data, or they're learning more about who their first party data is, right? We were working with a healthcare company who, they thought their whole, first party data was actually one job title, right? And they're surprised to find out it's actually a different one, right? And so we're able to really leverage that to, optimize different campaigns. And of course, the objective changes, right? Are you top of funnel, you bottom of funnel?
Yeah.
But yeah, having that insight again is able to really shapes the different campaigns and allows them to optimize.
Awesome. Great use case.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We have time for a few more questions here. Let's see. What intersections are you both seeing, if any, with data clean rooms and the optimization of marketing mix models?
Yeah, so I can jump in first. So yeah, absolutely. I gave an example earlier about that financial services company who we didn't know what was the right optimization, the right attribution window, right? And so through our data and our time to convert query, they were able to learn, this is the relevant, attribution window, and they're able to take that to apply. It's also helpful in terms of some of the insights they're getting about, the brand campaigns versus the demand campaigns, what's really moving the needle, and really what are the right segments to be targeting, right, to bring that back into their MMM models.
Yeah. And I think, just to add to this, I think we also kind of go and see now kind of net new metrics being leveraged through kind of data clean rooms, things that didn't exist outside of this environment. So if we think, for instance, about understanding the cost of audience, right? How much does that cost in terms of kind of reaching a specific cost audience per unique? And then secondly to that is kind of trying to understand the difference between new to brands versus existing to brands. So what is actually my cost of actually acquiring a net new customer that never kind of transacting with me before versus kind of creating an upsell to somebody that already knew me? I think those are kind of details that do matter when it comes to actually kind of go and plan and kind of program your next kind of media plans.
We've actually seen that as well. I was thinking about how we have as well, like optimal number of impressions, right? And so that's another model that they're able to bring into their MMM model about, okay, is it 3 impressions over this time period? Is it 10 impressions, right? What was the right number of impressions needed to really drive that conversion? And conversion, again, to your point, can be more top of funnel, downloading the white papers, filling out a lead, form, or it could be really that bottom funnel, like who actually converted. Just different aspects of, what an advertiser can bring back to their MMM models.
100%.
I'd like to know, well, the audience member would like to know, and I think this is interesting because we talked a little bit about a point person earlier, but what type of talent is required in the B2B business to onboard a data clean room successfully?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I can take it. Do you
yeah,
want to take it?
yeah, no, go for it.
Sure. So typically, as I mentioned, to get a clean room on board, it does require someone on the business side and someone, of course, on the technical side, right, to connect their different data
Mhm.
sets. But what we found success with is starting with someone on the business side, right, who understands that value so they can get it prioritized on their technical counterparts. But in terms of the actual technical setup, it's really a low lift, right? Creating a service account. And I can go way into detail there. If anyone really wants those details, send that documentation. But typically, it's someone on the business side who understands the potential with a clean room and is
Yeah.
able to sell that potential in their own org as well as to their technical counterparts. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
seen
I
anything
mean,
different.
exactly the same. It's really kind of having that the right person on the business side that can truly articulate what the end goal is, so that basically it's then easier actually for the technical side to go and load the necessary data, connect the necessary data. I think there's been a lot of effort over the last 12 to 24 months now where a lot of the analytics have actually been automated or made available. So now you're not about writing the analytics, you're about configuring the analytics, which is a much easier job and therefore doesn't necessarily kind of require the same amount of technical skills.
Agreed.
Excellent. We have time for one more question, and both of you are welcome to answer this one. How do you view the progression of privacy enhancing and/or preserving technology? And do you view data clean rooms as a lasting core component of that evolution? Maybe start with you, Benji.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been on calls with, head of privacy at different companies, walk them through how the clean room works, and they're thrilled, right? They're so excited that data is protected on both sides, but you can still get this insight. So I
Mhm.
definitely think the data clean room concept is something that, yeah, is here to stay.
Yeah.
In terms of, as the privacy landscape you pointed
Mhm.
out is getting more complex, it definitely allows for the ability to analyze different data
Mhm.
sets while keeping
Yeah.
them both safe.
Yeah.
And you tell me as well what you're seeing
Yeah,
across the board.
yeah, 100%. And I think also, I mean, we didn't talk about this, but I think data clean room is actually kind of one mechanism to actually kind of go and establish data collaboration. But we see also the optionality for our clients kind of evolving over time now, where we think about data clean rooms in cloud data warehouse, but now we're talking about data clean room in trusted execution environment that has encryption at all stages of the data collaboration, making it even more secure for customers. And so we see this, and we see also tools in the clean room, like whether it's K-main or node injection, to actually kind of make sure that there's no re-identification. So all of those tools or optionalities are there for customers to go and decide on how much security, how much privacy they want to actually kind of leverage for the data collaboration.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Frederick, Benji, thank you again for this great content and answering all the questions from our audience. We really appreciate it. Before we wrap up, let me take a moment to tell you about eMarketer's media channels. You can register for live analyst and tech talk webinars on our event page at emarketer.com/events. Don't forget to tune in to Behind the Numbers, our eMarketer's daily podcast. And finally, please subscribe to our newsletters. And thank you all again for joining us today. And thank you again to Frederick and Benji, the teams at LiveRamp and LinkedIn, and to our eMarketer Studio team behind the scenes for making this webinar possible. We will see you all again on the next Tech Talk.